This is our first podcast of the 2024 school year, as well as the year 2024. So let's get it off to a great start. With that, I want to say Happy New Year, first and foremost, to my two guests today, my co-host, basically. First, I want to give a shout out, ladies first, to Dr. Esther Good. She's the Director of Schools for the wonderful Gary Community School District. Had the privilege of hanging with her briefly while we were at a city event. And I got to tell you, a shout out to Sharice White. I talked to her that day when we were backstage, but not only shout out to her for putting that wonderful event together to kind of install our municipal government, but shout out to the Gary Community Schools for stepping up. You know, and a lot of times I think in the narrative we get confused, or we get away from the fact about how important the Gary Community Schools are to our community. And that was an opportunity for them to step up, and they were right there when the district needed, when the city needed them, and they looked great. West Side looked absolutely amazing. So shout out to you, Dr. Good. I know you were a big part of making that go through. Shout out to Sharice White, who's a good friend of ours here on the show, for making it happen. And then, of course, Mike Razor. That's my partner in crime here. He's the manager for the Gary Community School Corporation right now. He's a great friend of ours, great supporter of the show. And Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Happy New Year, Jeff. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great. Great to see
you.
Both of you looking great. And, of course, Esther, Happy New Year to you. Merry Christmas and all the whole nine.
Absolutely.
We're right now, I was talking about this last week when I was on, and, you know, we were anticipating you all coming back on the air, and I was just simply kind of giving a little bit of my little insight about what time of the year this is. This is that home stretch, you know what I mean? And the one thing about January, I remember, like, my father really used to tell me about February, and he used to talk to me about this even when I was in college, particularly my freshman year. I'll let you figure that out. But he always told me that February was a wonderful time in this part of the semester, because it's an opportunity where you can get back on track. You're not so far behind. I mean, really January, let's just be honest. But he was talking to me, and he was just like, you know, February is an opportunity to catch back up, make up for lost time, but you got to go out here and put the work in. And you know, it's not too late. That's kind of what he was trying to instill in me. And I was talking about this on the air to the audience, because I think as we start this new school year, obviously there's some things going down that the adults should worry about as far as the coming on track. It's the start of a new year. It's not too late. And jump, you know, kind of get behind them and jump both feet in at the deep end of the pool. Either one of you.
Absolutely, and I'll let Dr. Goods talk about it in a second.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're coming back to school, and a lot of kids are coming off, you know, a couple of weeks of a holiday break. But it is time to jump right back in.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is super important that you start well.
Yeah.
You know, that you don't fall behind, because you're right. February's not too late.
Right.
But you know, better to get ahead and stay ahead.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's really important this time of year. And, you know, we're super excited about some great things that we have going on this spring, and I will toss to my colleague.
Yeah, and I want to go to Dr. Good, because, you know, you've been in the classroom, you're an administrator as well, and my dad was an administrator. I think what he was talking about was, you know, this is the phase where you as educators, you all are kind of getting into the home stretch of your curriculum, the way that you've kind of designed your year. And so right now you're obviously guiding and getting ready for the kids, that you're trying to get them on the finish line, but you don't want to leave the other ones behind. So that's kind of why I was bringing up like a February and a January about it's a great time to start off the new year like it was kind of like a new year.
It is. For us, it's the start of semester two.
Yeah.
Kind of like your colleges. A lot of your colleges are on 2 semesters.
Yes.
And they finished up right before Christmas break.
Yeah.
And, you know, you come back, and this is like the start of a new school year and the start of a new semester. So it is the same for Gary Schools.
Yeah.
We ended our semester right before Christmas break, and we are starting anew.
Yeah.
So this is that time when parents can't, some students' classes change.
Oh, wow.
They may have an elective or a course that they did not take semester 1 that would change for semester 2. Parents can get to know teachers again, or, you know, for the first time, they'll have an opportunity to make significant changes in instruction, in education. Maybe you were taking a math class that started out semester 1, and some of the foundational pieces were there.
Right.
It really amps up semester 2. This is when you get into the meat of the instruction.
Yeah.
And this is when I would say to students, please remain diligent and focused.
Yeah.
And ask questions and make sure that they are understanding. I would say to parents, it is not too late to make contact with teachers.
Thank you.
And find out where the deficits are and where the successes are, to plan for enrichment for the summer, and to plan to do any remediation that needs to happen in the summer.
Right.
You know, you when you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail.
There you go. I like that.
They're planning to make sure their students are successful. Because that's what we're doing instructionally.
Right.
Now, this is that time of year when we're taking iReady.
Yeah.
So we're getting our mid-year results, and we're finding out where students are in terms of the instruction that has happened semester 1. And so we're planning for what the rest of semester 2 looks like based on the successes and the mastery that we see from our tests.
Right.
So, and we're planning for long-term for our standardized exams that, you know, we'll have to take.
How many standardized tests do you have coming up in this semester? Because first of all, explain what iReady is. These names change ever since, I'm still at Iowa Basic Skills.
Okay, so iReady is our benchmark diagnostic exam that we give 3 times a year. We give it beginning of year, so they took it in August, September. Right. They take it in January, and then they'll take it again in May. Okay. And that just kind of tells us from
where they are.
Point A to B to C. Right. You know, has mastery taken place? Has growth taken place?
Right.
We're looking for growth. We're looking for students to improve, and they are working in comparison with themselves.
Right.
So that gives parents a good gauge on readers and non-readers. Lexile levels. It gives you a lot of diagnostic information about where students are in reading and mathematics.
Now I want to ask both of you, because I've been picking your brain for a couple of years now, Esther. So I kind of know how it works, and I want you to weigh in on this, Mike, because one of the things that I've come to appreciate, as I got older. I mean, I was somebody, I went through school, I took tests well and things of that nature, but the reality is that we all know that everybody does not test well. And so when I do hear about this increase in standardized testing and how sometimes right or wrong, it is used to sometimes label and even pigeonhole a student, how do you kind of deal with that? Because there is a reality out there about test anxiety. Some people retain information differently, and then once again put test anxiety in there. It's hard to get that out of there when you're nervous about being up against the gun. So how do you all account for that? Because it does seem unfair when you're having all these tests and they're supposed to determine a benchmark, and now you've got a student who's pigeonholed because of it.
So we don't assess in a vacuum. Okay, I think that's the first thing. Good. We do have state mandated assessments we have to give, but that's not the only way we assess children. Yeah. It's informative, and I think we think of them as formative assessments in a lot of ways, especially what we're doing right now is Esther said, where are you at? Right. And is that what we're seeing? Yeah. Because it could be the opposite of, hey, you're underperforming. For everything that your formative assessment's showing is you're getting this, and that's not what we're seeing in the classroom. Right. But, we really feel, sometimes I'll call it the medical model. Yeah. Every patient is unique in their own way.
Thank you.
And you have to look at, you have to look at their whole chart, not just what one assessment tells you.
That's what I was going to ask.
And make sure that is an accurate picture of that student.
So do you have the time is what I would say, because I get what your point is, because I like the medical analogy. So do you take that data from the test, and then you can kind of cross match it with data that the teacher or the instructor can give you and say, well, look, he or she might not have tested in this area, but I can tell you, I work with them on a daily basis. They get it, but they maybe process it a little different, or they go a long way around to get to the end of the problem, but they do get it. Do you have the opportunity to kind of go out here and do it? Because it seems like that would involve a lot of legwork.
Well, our teachers work in what we call PLCs, professional learning communities, where they really talk about how students are doing. Yeah. And individual students and what they're seeing from them. And so, yes, is it as much time as we'd like? No. But are we doing it? Yes. Yeah. We're looking at individual students. We're looking at their assessments. We're looking at their strengths, their weaknesses, and maybe also where they have a similar strength or weakness as another student, where we can pair kids and they can work with where we can give some intense instruction around a certain area.
Yeah. Esther, you want to kind of add on to this?
I would just say the other piece we're doing is, because standardized tests are still the way of the world. Right. We can't get around them, and we do want our students to be able to produce. Is maybe simulating those environments more often. Okay.
And to make them comfortable.
So that they're comfortable.
Okay.
Everything, confidence really is half of everything.
Yes,
right?
It is.
this is a comfortable place for me. Maybe I'm taking it with the teacher that I'm most comfortable with.
Right.
Maybe there's a drink of water here when I need
like
it.
That,
just looking at each child, like our teachers, our principals have lists of students that they are looking at to make sure that we are definitely giving them the individualized support that they need.
Yeah.
So they're looking at them from that MTSS model, that multi-tiered support, systems of support. They're looking at what they need academically, behaviorally, socially, emotionally.
Yeah.
They find that anxiety, this kid has test anxiety. So what can we do? And then we have our SEL specialists who may come in and do some different things with that student. Give them some breathing exercises. Make sure they eating breakfast. So just working with each student to make sure that they have what they need to take the test.
Now, you know what?
They're going to take it.
That makes sense. And it made me think back to, like when I was in college and we had to take public speaking, or even back playing sports. And one of the things I think that you referenced, and I think parents should listen to, is that one of the things that gives you confidence is if you feel that you've prepared. When you're sitting down, you don't really get nervous about the situation. If you've practiced enough, you've put as much work as you possibly can, then you feel comfortable to go out here and do it. It's kind of when you are a little unsettled and you kind of feel like you don't know what's around that you get nervous. So I can appreciate exactly what you just said.
And I taught mathematics. So, one of the things I always used to say to students is math is a practice sport.
Oh my goodness, it is.
And so,
at least for me, it was.
The more and more we do it and do it correctly and do it well, the better I become and the more confident I become in what I need to do. And I'm able to demonstrate that from that point on.
I like it. I like that. We're talking with Dr. Good and Dr. Razor from Gary Community School Corporation. It's our first podcast of 2024. And as I said, we're in the home stretch of things. Let us know, you've got a couple of, obviously, we've got some things that are jumping off in this new year. I'll let either one of you start. Get us up to speed.
So I'll use today as an example. One of the things that we did want to make sure we talk about today is inclement weather. Because today we kind of dodged a bullet. It was better than we thought. The temperature stayed above freezing. The roads were a little slushy. Streets were a little slushy, but we were okay. Tonight the temperature is supposed to drop below freezing, so we'll be monitoring again. It's supposed to snow again. But one thing that I will say is we will always notify you when we're not in school. So we may not say, hey, we're in school, because the assumption is we are in school,
right? Like today.
Yeah, like today. But we will notify myriad ways. There'll be robocalls that go out. It'll be all over social media. It will be all over the mainstream media. We'll let the radio stations, we'll let TV know. You will see it if we're not in school. And if in doubt, you can check our website. Our website will say whether we're in school or not as well. A couple things to remember though. Monday we will not be in school. And the weather looks to be bad, but it is for the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King holiday.
Absolutely.
But Tuesday also looks like it could be a little treacherous. So, be on the lookout Monday evening, because you weren't in school on Monday and maybe you're not thinking about that. The thing that we always want to commit to is we're going to try to make the call as early as possible.
Exactly.
For example, we were up about 3:30 this morning checking things out because not only for our students, but for our employees, our bus drivers, those folks who come in early, the custodians, maintenance folks, we want to give them a heads up as early as possible as well. But, as we're having inclement weather, we want to always operate with abundance of caution. We can always make up a snow day. We can't bring a life back if there's an accident or something like that. So we're always going to be cautious when it comes to snow days. But at the same time, we do know the most important for a place the kid to be during the week is in school.
Absolutely.
So, if we can come to school, we're going to come to school.
All right. I want to go to you, Dr. Good, because that's a good point. I mean, I talked about that as well. And, one of the things, and post-pandemic, we've gotten used to the, quote, virtual learning, remote learning, whatever you want to call it. But it is still something that the experts say is not really the optimum. I mean, we understand the technology's there and things like that. But if you're really looking for optimum conditions, it's to put a scholar right in front of his or her instructor. And that way there's a lot more learning and the ability to communicate in that fashion. So with that being said, when you throw weather into this, and I want to get back to the fact that the second semester is different than the first because it's the home stretch for a lot of these young people to stay on track. How important is it for these scholars, as well as their support staff, their home, the guardians, their parents, to not use this as some kind of vacation day? This could also be a makeup day, a sharpening skills day. Are you, in the comfortability of your own home or what have you, but a day of working and not a day off?
Okay, so I have about 4 things to say.
Please.
Right off. Okay, the first thing I want to say is in regards to inclement weather.
Yeah.
We'll send the laptops home or the devices home because it is out of an abundance of caution.
Right.
So don't take for granted that we sent them home, there's no school tomorrow. What I want parents to do is we sent them home, so be on alert.
Thank you.
There may not be school tomorrow. And then if we decide that if it's not going to be tomorrow, right now we're looking at when we start talking about virtual versus face-to-face and in-person learning, we're looking at doing a partial day of that synchronous instruction. Okay. So it's more like a 11 to 2:30 time frame, and they should look on social media or get the robocall or go on the school's website to find out what time we are actually going to be synchronous, meaning the teacher will be on with the students. Right. Exactly. They may post assignments, but we also will have some
allowed to put homework on there, or are they simply for the synchronous or plugging in?
No. They use them for homework. Okay. There's lots of different levels do different things. Yes. So the third thing I think I was going to say to you, but let me go back to homework. Go ahead. So high school use their devices every day, right? That is their textbook in a lot of cases, or the textbook app may be linked digitally, and so they access it from the device. K-8, they have the same apps that are linked to the devices, but they may not take them home every day because we do want to monitor screen time. Yeah. We want to limit screen time. And we know that there's an abundance of research out there that says that the most single and best important factor in a child's education is the teacher. Absolutely. Right? So as much as possible, I want them to have that instructor that can connect with them, relate to them. Yeah, it makes sense. Plus, this is expensive equipment, and we know that they're little kids. Exactly. And say, hey, did they get it? Right. A lot of times I can see the light bulb turn on. Right. And so that is important. So when we talk about face-to-face versus virtual learning, teachers are important. Of course they are. They're very valuable, and they don't know their value sometimes, but kids take their teachers with them forever. Right. I have one right now who taught me in 2nd and 3rd grade, Kathy Rhodes. She is an interventionist over at Bailey right now. She comes back and gives her And she was your teacher. She was my teacher. Never let go of her. Like, I will call her to this day. I saw her one day and she's like, I just want you to know your mama will be proud. Yeah. She connected with not only me, but my family. And so there's nothing I wouldn't do for that teacher. Right. I got teachers like that. Nothing that she didn't do for me. Miss Winfrey. That's right. Yeah. Oh, Miss Winfrey. Now, let me tell you about Miss Winfrey. I know about Miss Winfrey. You are gifted enough to get with Miss Winfrey over there at Banneker and Marquette. Girlfriend is a rock star. Yes, she is. She will take new content. So she taught you, but she's teaching students today. I know. So there's something to be said about our veterans who are really in the classroom reinventing education for our students. Miss Winfrey is teaching Project Lead the Way, which is one of our engineering courses. I know. I talked to her the other day. Courses, and she has taken that to the next level. Students are doing all of the design process pieces with Miss Winfrey. They are able to really demonstrate what they've learned with Miss Winfrey. Nice. Another person over there, Geraldine Champion. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Still rocking it out. You go into her 2nd grade classroom and students are able to tell you what grade they deserve based on the rubric that they use. Right. Tell me they're not learning, because that lets me know that you know what you did, you know how you did it, you know what the outcomes were supposed to be. All of that is coming from Miss Champion. Nice. 2nd graders. Nice. So whoever gets them in 3rd grade is like, oh, wow, this is a dream come true. Right. So I just want to say that's just a plug for my veteran teachers that are out there. I don't mind it. Amazing. There you go. And they are reinventing education. If you could get them in front of, just all of our teachers to just help be support, it would be commendable.
Now, I want to ask you to this, and I want you all obviously to finish telling us about some things, but I want to ask you while it's still on my mind, because I was making it a point. I'm glad, Esther, and I'm glad both of you came, because I was thinking about both of you when I was talking about this on the air. And, it kind of goes, and I'm kind of leapfrogging about what the district is going to look like. And the reason I bring this up is because obviously there has been conversation, there's been articles written in one of the magazines and newspapers about the new plan that you kind of debuted a couple of months ago. Both of you all were on the show, talked about it very transparently, about the design, about what Westside will look like or what the district will look like going forward. So I'm not going to talk long because I want to get your answer, but I want to kind of tell you my response to some of the things that were being talked about. And one of the things is I referenced the fact that I remember my mother telling me the stories about when she grew up. She went to Roosevelt. It was the only school she ever went to, and she graduated. So for us to sit here and act like this has never been done ever is a little bit misleading. And now, have we evolved and were there different things going on? Yeah, and the conditions were different, but I just want to go back to some of the concerns about putting all these children kind of in one campus, that all of a sudden this is unheard of. That's not necessarily fact. What I do want to get your opinion of is something that I looked at as an opportunity. And what I was talking about was the district right now. And like I said, people were calling me a homer because I was talking to a couple people from some other districts about this. But I was talking about the new and improved Gary Community School District and the opportunities that you had. And that is that not only do you get to streamline your district into, one building, right? I mean, you're hemorrhaging students just by attrition, just by every time there's, they're moving to another school, you risk losing something. Now you kind of take a little bit of the thinking out, because there are opportunities for parents to kind of be consistent or consistently familiar with the staff. You have the opportunity to meet your child's teacher 2 or 3 grades ahead by simply coming to some of you all's functions that you have. That is a game changer for a lot of people. Now, having said that, you also have something that is your ace in the hole that I think that you all should rebrand yourself, Esther, and I was kind of referencing you and I talked about this, and that's the Career Center. Because going into the 21st century, when we're looking at this new model of students, I think Gary versus any other district, not the ones just in the city limits, I'm talking about the competing ones on the outside, can literally boast, or at least make the proclamation, that every student can succeed here. Every student, you get a student in at the pre-K level, you watch them matriculate, you have the ability to direct them. It doesn't mean that they're not as smart or things like that. They can get their geometry, they can get their things by going on a path to building construction. They can get into building engineering, some of these programs. No student can fail in the Gary Community Schools going forward. That's my new motto. You're welcome. Go ahead. I want you all to weigh in on it.
I will defer to my boss first.
Well, I think the biggest thing is we want to make sure that we have programmatic offerings that compete or exceed anything else that a kid could get anywhere else.
Thank you.
And I think you bring up a good point. I think the Career Center allows us to do that.
Yeah.
It's important for us to be fiscally solvent, good stewards of the taxpayers' money, but it's more important to make sure we're serving children the best.
Thank you.
And I think that's the biggest focus. How can we best serve children, and give them the best opportunities? And I think, the Career Center, to your point, is a great example of that. Early college, high school, another great example of that. Dual credit courses, great example of that. Things that put kids on pace, on track to excel in the future in whatever they want to do.
The way I look at it is not only are you the savings that you're having with transportation, with operating costs for buildings and things like that, but by having these young people inside the building at the time, you can start to accelerate things like the associates, dual credit pro. You can, because you all have a lot of smart. I mean, I'm not just saying because Esther's here and Kershaw is here, and I know so many people, Earl Smith and all these people who are very smart, who who need to be kind of released with their ideas. You all have one school now, and you can get a little revolutionary with it. You can get a little outside the box with it. You have these young kids, these babies that you are going to have in-house, and you can start to steer and play with their minds and get them under these paths a lot earlier than if they're operating in their separate buildings. It's actually, in my mind, it looks like it can be a win-win versus some of the concerns that people have just by, hey, they don't need to be. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is absolutely possibly the best, because referencing what you even brought up, Esther, I might fall in love. Like, for instance, we bring up Miss Winfrey. I remember, she was a family friend, Mr. Winfrey. They were great friends of my parents, but she was legendary at Nobel when I went there. And I can remember being in second grade, and I'm going to be full disclosure. She was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen in the flesh. But having said all that, she was a family friend, but she taught the smart fifth graders. And when I was in second grade, my whole goal was to be in her class. And by the time I was in fifth grade, 3 grades ahead, I was in her class. And that was a big deal. I wanted to be there. I knew who she was. And so I think that stuff matters.
So first off, shout out to Miss Winfrey, because she's my soror.
Of course she is.
She's okay. Yeah. She's definitely pretty.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the topic at hand. For me, culture is everything.
Yeah.
And that's where everything begins in the school. Creating the culture of excellence, the culture of learning. The school is going to be what tone we set it to.
Yeah.
The leadership drives the school. So we start talking about what's going to happen in the school. I know folks are sick of hearing about my Polar Express experience. But
tell us again, why don't you?
I am so proud of the work that the high schoolers did with Polar Express. Mm-hmm. The high schoolers set out to create a engaging and capturing experience for the younger kids.
Right.
So in that moment, they were taking on teaching those that were coming after them.
Yeah.
They were saying to me, we want them to be cougars like us.
Mm-hmm.
And so they literally, they had stations for kids where they might have been running a math lesson, a STEM lesson. They read to the students. They also did some impromptu type activities where they watched the movie, but then I had to show up with a tree. And then we had Calvin the Cougar there. And we know how much our students like to dance. It's cultural.
Right.
It's a part of who we are. And so they had a dance off for some of the students. They invited them on stage and they danced against the tree and Calvin.
Oh my
They had their 5 minutes of fame on stage where they were able to show their talent.
Right.
They got their principals involved. Mm-hmm. They were able to have a dance party for the students.
Right.
They engaged those students in something as simple as musical chairs.
There you go.
But it was them. They DJ'd it. Mm-hmm. They introduced the video. It was student-led.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing for me. Like, everybody says, Esther and the Polar Express, but it was student-led.
Right.
And anytime students take it and they have their vision
and they run with
they're able to run with it, Esther is excited because at the end of the day,
I saw you at the STEAM retreat. I know.
Oh my God, I was so excited. At the end of the day, not only were the elementary students excited, but I had high school students come back to me and say, Dr. Goods, this was amazing. I had young men say, I think I want to be a teacher now.
Right.
That's it for me.
Yeah.
That is that was that instant gratification that usually we get it 10 years down the line.
Right.
No, they were right there, Johnny on the spot, helping. A little girl lost her coat. High school students were looking. They took this on like they were adults.
Now, let me ask both of you then as professional educators, because, one would say that there's data out there that supports that. You see this happening with coaching in sports, where when you go out here and you get that positive response, like you just talked about, Esther, that also is kind of a call from the scholar to challenge them more. Like, okay, we've gone and done this. I like it. Throw the next thing at me. I'm ready to go for this.
And I got the next thing ready for them, right?
Yeah.
I'm throwing it at them. They are waiting on it. They're like, so what are we doing next?
Thank you.
They've asked already.
Yeah.
And we're there.
Yeah.
So I really felt so just inspired by our high school students.
Right.
No incidents. You know, people always talk about what goes on at Westside. Nothing except I brought 1,200 kindergarten through third graders over on a Monday.
Right.
And the high schoolers engaged them. And then I brought 800 fourth and fifth graders over on a Tuesday. And they engaged them. And the high schoolers stayed Tuesday nights and engaged them. And they were there with me Sunday afternoon from 1 to 10 at night, setting up, decorating, and we had Sunday dinner together.
Now, see, do you understand?
High school builds community.
Now, so you understand and appreciate why I was asking this question, because, you know, we're getting, like I said, jumping up ahead, and this is the adult conversation of it. But one of the things that I was very adamant about trying to emphasize, and I wanted to get your opinions about that, is that I believe, and I know, listen, I know you all have done a remarkable job in the 5 or 6 years that you all have, and I'm talking about Paige, Dr. Hinckley, the whole crew, all you all, Esther, for sticking around when you've got options. You're a very mobile person with all your education. But what I'm saying is that now it comes out to something that you all have learned. You're late to the party because that's not how you were built, and that's marketing. You got to go out here and compete. Before, I mean, when you and I were coming up, this was the end all be all. It existed, so we came, kind of like the natural. Now it's not so much. There are many districts operating within the city itself. And so now there's this all out scrap for kids. And so what I've been trying to talk about, and what I've been trying to kind of harp on in the past couple of months, is really kind of pointing out what Gary community has that stands out. It's been easy to sit around here for a number of years and talk about some of the things that may or may not have gone right, or some of the things gone wrong. And we're finding out that other districts, not just here, but across the country, are going through the same thing. Parents are homeschooling because they're concerned about safety. There's more school shootings. All of these things are not relegated to just Gary. But what I'm saying is that there are some things I believe that you all have that separate you from these others. And like I said, the STEM designations that you all have gotten over the years, and putting that all in one building makes Westside a special place. And so you take that and you couple it with your companion campus, which is the Gary Area Career Center. You literally can come out here, and it's a very boastful statement. Don't just listen to Jeff, but I'm literally saying that you can look a parent in the eye and saying that you put your kid in here, he or she will not come out of here failing, because there is a place for them to go. We got a spot here. They might not be going to a four-year college as a mathematics major, but I tell you what, they'll go over here and graduate and be the best darn cosmetologist. So they'll be a designer.
Yes.
They'll be they will not fail in the Gary Community Schools.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's about those opportunities. And something Dr. Good said, it's about the culture.
Yeah.
It's about building that culture of excellence, but then also that culture of service.
Yeah.
That culture of belonging.
I like that.
The culture of
Polar Express.
Yeah.
Pride.
Yeah, there's a pride, but then also wanting to help the next generation.
Yeah.
You've got juniors and seniors in high school wanting to see the success and the engagement of the students below them of the future. And that's that restores your faith in what you're doing if it ever falters.
Yeah, I like that. And going to you, Esther, the same mentality of what Mike was talking about. I mean, turning this lemons into lemonade, as you said, we're going to be in one school and things like that. I would also argue that culturally, I think it would be okay in an environment that's controlled like Westside for a lot of these young men and young women to have the opportunity, not necessarily come in close quarters or things like that, but to be able to see what it looks like on the next level, to be able to look at an older scholar or other people handling their business. A lot of times you don't necessarily have that in front of you. And I can only reference my personal life as an only child. And as I said, going back to my elementary, 5th grade, once again, I remember seeing these older kids who would yell at us and push us off the bus and things, who had these orange belts on. They were patrols. And I couldn't wait to become one. And I remember when I became one, and now I could go and push around the kindergartners as they got, I wasn't pushing them around, but you kind of came of your own age. And I remember getting my belt from the 6th grader who handed it to me, and he was like, now this is yours. And it was like I kind of got it passed down. And there's something to be be said for that.
About seeing what you can be.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I think, while there's easy to criticize and take shots at some of the quote unquote obvious, even though I don't think that, I think that there's some intangibles that can come out of this, out of streamlining this situation in the schools.
Yeah. And in my case, I am always on the side of the student.
Yeah.
And so we talk about the glass half full, and do you look at it as full or half empty? Well, I come from a place where my mom taught me to make lemonade, sweet lemonade out of lemons.
Yep.
And so whatever the case is, I'm advocating for the students.
You're gonna make
to
it
get
work.
The best outcome. I'm going to make it work. I look at so many opportunities that we can offer students if they are in the same building. While I know it's easy to sit and criticize, I know it's easy to say what didn't work, but if you have people there and you gain the information and the knowledge and you bring it all together and really intentionally plan, then you can see what can work.
Right.
And I am about modeling to make sure,
Yeah.
And I'm not going to ask you to do something that I wouldn't do, but I also feel like we need to show you, and I am from a show you points of view.
Right.
If we say we can do this, then we need to do it.
Yeah.
And so I am about keeping our kids safe and making sure that they get the best education they can possibly get.
Absolutely.
So I always tell people that I had a beyond great education from Gary School.
Yeah.
That's what we want our kids to have.
Yes.
Well, to walk away and just be like, look who I am.
Exactly.
And there again is that confidence.
Yeah.
So building it so that they're empowered, giving them all the opportunities, giving them opportunities to see what they can be, see who they can be, and even dream a little bit. I think that if we put all that together and we come to a place where we're about kids and we really just focus on what we can do to move forward.
Yeah.
And we're in a better place.
Let's go and get a quick phone call. Okay, well, the call us back, 219-962-9483. I mean, I absolutely agree with you, Dr. Good, because as I said, as you look, I mean, I think there's also something to be said for young people, looking at buildings that are now filled to capacity, having the resources available to them. I mean, it makes it a lot easier logistically. And as you both point out, the benefactors of all this are the kids, because they don't have to do without or half, as they talk. Let's go to the phones. Caller, how you doing? You're on the Pop-Up Podcast.
Okay, good afternoon. I would just like to ask, have the board connected with the neighboring colleges? Because as we know, IU and Purdue does have a program where they deal with the seniors. And I know last time we went through the program at IU, and it was sad to say about 3 years ago there were no seniors from Gary there. Have you contacted neighborhood colleges to see what they are offering programs with the seniors, getting them ready for college?
Good question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we have connections with IUN, IU groups program. We have groups recommenders. We have Purdue, West Lafayette in our schools every week. We have connections with Purdue Northwest.
Didn't you go to Purdue?
I did. I am a Purdue grad.
Boilermaker. Okay, go ahead.
We also have connections with Calumet College and Ivy Tech.
Yeah.
So we also have a few connections with Valpo.
Yeah.
So we have been making connections with the colleges. I assure you that that's different in that they reach out to us and we reach out to them.
Right.
So the partnerships are there. They come to the campus. We have FAFSA nights with the colleges. We have, those financial aid nights. We have college fairs where they come to the building. We're also planning a big one for February.
Right.
So do know that we are connected with them. We know their value, and we definitely want to make sure our kids have all of those opportunities.
Now, let me ask you this, because you were head of the elementary schools at one point. So I want to pick your brain on this. Once again, this is I'm just kind of brainstorming with the two of you, and I hope you indulge me. So as we see here and we talk about what the future of education looks like, because it's going to radically change, and it's going to have to be people thinking outside the box, in my very humble opinion, to keep public schools alive, because they're getting it from all different angles, the labor and the fact of I can get into the politics of it. So going back to the business model now for the new and improved Gary Community Schools, do you believe that there is more of an opportunity, and I'm going to use the word European model, to implement things like the European model. What I mean by that is since you have the elementary school kids in-house, that you can start to accelerate and introduce some of these subjects to the young children, language, earlier math, and things like that. Like we're seeing, like when we were over in Germany and things like that, some of the things that they're doing in third grade is absolutely mind-blowing. And that's not to be said it doesn't happen here, but in these specialty schools, I believe it can happen in the public schools here. I just think sometimes it's a matter of logistics and kind of laying it out. You literally have one schoolhouse now, so there are so many opportunities going forward. But I just want to pick your brain because you're the elementary mind on this table.
I'm actually elementary and secondary.
Okay, there you go. Excuse me.
So secondary, I spent a lot of years.
I got you. You spent a lot of years. Don't forget that.
And I believe our mayor would probably call it the Greater Gary Schools.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I know him call it that.
But in terms of some of those things happening earlier, let me just say that they used to. So this wouldn't be a new implementation. This would be something that we are circling back around and picking up again.
But see, let me just interrupt, because you remember, you're a little younger than me, but I would suggest that when that was going on, we had gifted and talented.
We did.
And so that was a great, when I was in elementary school, we went to Tolliston and we were doing all kinds of stuff. That was kind of an opportunity to do just what you're just talking about. So you're right about that, though it was still extracurricular. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, some of it extracurricular and some of it just forced upon us, and it was for our greater good.
Right.
But I think about when I took Latin.
Yeah.
In 4th, 5th, and 6th grade at Banneker.
See, I didn't get it till 9th.
With Magister?
I was over
Mr.
there.
Clayton?
Yeah, Mr. Clayton. Yes. You know what I'm talking about.
He came over to Banneker.
Yeah.
Period, I guess, of his day, it was my lunch hour.
Right.
So my lunch hour was given to Latin.
Yeah.
I ate and I took Latin. Those opportunities.
And don't tell him it was a dead language. That's how you get on his bad side. Go ahead.
He told me it was the language of love.
Okay. Well, we'll talk later about that, but go ahead.
But what it has proven to be for me in terms of wordsmithing, Latin is truly the root of all languages.
Oh my goodness.
And so you start talking about PSAT and SAT. If I can find a Latin teacher now, all the Latin teachers come out of the woodwork.
Right.
Contact HR for Gary Community School Corporation.
Yeah, no, you're
right.
Like,
Esther, chill. But no, we need them.
You can't take the VCAT. When I first applied to go to veterinary school, Latin was essential. Most words are derivatives of Latin. When you go to law school, you go to, it's the derivatives of the American. So you're absolutely right. It's going to help. That's one of those subjects that a kid, you can say, well, how is that going to help me in the future? Go take a test and try to go on. You're going to absolutely appreciate it. Go ahead.
So then we used to have the SAIL program.
Yeah.
So that was foreign languages where you could take French and Spanish in the summertime. I remember Janice Williams was one of those advocates of SAIL. She's still around. We can pick her brain. You had Dr. Campbell and Ann Thompson.
Yeah.
They were foreign language specialists.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is us sitting with the veterans and getting some of what they had. It doesn't have to necessarily be just for gifted and talented.
No.
It could be for all students because they're all gifted and talented.
That's where I'm going with it.
In some right. And so just making sure that we exhaust all of our opportunities. Gary has a wealth of resources.
Yeah.
And we got to get all the players to the table.
See, that's what I like to hear you say.
So that we can talk about what's going to benefit our kids going forward.
Because all these new places that are popping up, they're all kind of grasping at straws. And that's why I wanted to kind of sit here with both of you and really kind of pick your brains because, listen, full disclosure, we've got new facilities open as far as pre-K. Everybody's offering something different, revolutionary. I always call them the boutique online schools that are popping up. I can make your kid do this in 18 months and all that kind of stuff. And I would still argue that these resources are available here. And I was just trying to pick your brains about, because I think a lot of people, think that the Gary Community Schools is still old and stodgy and kind of stuck in their own ways. And I'm over here like, ever since I've gotten behind the curtain, I've been doing this for a minute and working with you. But when I got behind the curtain and I had the opportunity to really kind of see, like I got a meeting today with some people that, after we get off here and you hear some of the things that are going on, you're like, I didn't know they were doing that. They need to get more of that out there. So, yeah.
Well, and all students are welcome. There is no waiting list. There is
tuition
There is
free.
no lottery. There's no tuition.
Yeah.
all students are welcome, all opportunities.
Yeah. That's what I'm selling.
And we're also open to opportunities.
Right.
So, like, if you have a suggestion and we can make it work, we're not turning down opportunities for kids. I mean, come on. Let's be real. We want to make sure that we are producing well-rounded students that are able to compete globally. That have those STEM skills in their backpack.
Absolutely.
That, have the arts in their backpack. That, you don't get a Mark Spencer or lyrics without Mark Spencer. Just know that we're open to opportunities. We're open to bringing back some of the old and putting it with the new and merging it just for best practice and best outcome.
I believe it. Absolutely. It's been pretty interesting. This is our first show back. For those of you just tuning in, we appreciate Dr. Good and Dr. Razor for taking time out. I know you're hitting the ground running. We're going to go ahead, and as I said, I got a meeting coming up. You all are busy, but go ahead and tell me some great news going forward before we get out of here. What do we need to keep our eye on, Esther? Dr. Good. You've earned it. I always want to get familiar. Dr. Good.
That's okay. No, you should keep your eye on sports.
Okay.
Because just know January 20th. So we have games January 13th. I think they are starting at 11 o'clock.
There's a game tonight.
It's actually canceled tonight.
Okay, it's canceled.
But elementary basketball, I have games January 13th, 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock. So McCullough and Williams, Banneker and Beveridge. And then January 20th, we are having our playoffs for elementary.
Oh, look at you.
At Westside Leadership Academy.
Of course.
We start at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Who's the coach of the babies?
Oh, my gosh. There's so many different coaches.
Okay.
There's at McCullough, you probably have Miss Hoskins.
Okay.
Over at Williams, you have Coach Ford.
Oh, okay.
Elementary basketball that's a tough crowd.
Who you telling me? I used to play and I got cut.
That's all I'm saying. But the 20th, we have the playoffs. The ruthless playoffs. So we're going to know who's got game by the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
So we start at 10 o'clock in the morning and we are going to past 2. Oh. We have a cheer off.
Oh. Fun times.
Cougars,
Fun times.
Go. Having been a former captain of Westside's cheerleading squad.
Don't let us ever forget that.
No.
That's one of your many achievements.
We are having a cheer off. Y'all, and they're going to bring it on in true orange and blue Cougar fashion.
Yeah.
So come on out. Don't miss this, because that's going to be, I'm telling you, it's going to be exciting and excellent.
All right.
The other things we're doing, February is not only the month of love and...
It's Black History.
It's Black History. And we are an African-American school district. Yeah. And so getting our students engrossed in who they are,
we got some stuff for you on Black History here on this station.
Know what's going on. So you might want to join in where I'm having
I got an event coming up here.
A few week-long events with the students.
Yeah.
So again, I'm going to get those high school students involved.
Yeah.
And know that when the high school students are involved, they are not only just involved for the sake of just doing good, because they do good because they want to do good, because they didn't know that we could link their service to service learning in Bucket 2.
Yeah.
But that do know that we are going to make sure it's all linked to their Bucket 2 graduation requirements. We are going to be looking at the history of the city.
Yeah.
The neighborhoods in the city. We're going to look at the history of the schools and the school names.
Okay.
Where does Banneker come from? Where does Marquette come from?
Okay.
I mean, I go to these schools, but what does the school name mean?
Mm-hmm. We had to learn
what's
that.
What's the former... Right.
Father Marquette, right out there by my house.
And you have that pride today, right?
Yeah.
So bring it all
I went to
that
Nobel.
together.
Marquette, not so much. But anyway. I know what you're saying.
Banneker Bobcat.
I know you are.
Know that I was a Bobcat before they became Cougars. See. But do the students know that they used to be Bobcats?
No.
So just, building on those foundational pieces, because we talk about history and Black history.
Yeah.
Well, we're Black, and this is our history.
I like it.
So let's look at where we came from and know our roots.
That's going to be fun. Like I said, we're getting together. We got some stuff we got some stuff under our belt. Everybody knows we love Black history here on, in particular on Wake Up GI with Jeffrey Smith. Go ahead, Mike. You got something for us?
Yeah, as again, we're gonna end how we started. It is January. Weather can be bad.
Yeah.
Please be on the lookout. If there is inclement weather, we will let you know. But like we said, we want kids in school. We've got exciting things planned. We've got engaging things planned. And that's where we want our kids.
And you don't have to assume. This is the last call. We'll get it briefly. Caller, how you doing quickly? Hello? Okay, there you go. That was our answer. But yeah, absolutely. You gave 3 different things: social media, the robocall, and you can also go on the website.
Local media.
Yeah, local media. So there's no excuse to not know what's going on. Keep your eyes and ears open to see what's going on. We do have weather coming in. Temperatures are going to drop too. Go ahead.
The last thing I want to say is attendance is really important.
Oh, yeah. Come on. We should have started off with that. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to leave everybody with this note that we can't do our jobs if the students aren't in school.
Thank you.
So the students can't learn
if they're not in
there. We have teachers who have certifications to make sure that they are meeting the state standards in their content or their subject area and making sure students are mastering what they're supposed to be learning. If our students are not in school, they cannot learn what they need to learn. So I would implore parents to make attendance a priority because we're mandated by the state. We have to document attendance. And then there are, of course, consequences for kids not coming to school because that's where they belong.
Thank you.
It's the law. It is.
You're so pleasantly nice, Dr. I mean, you so know I'm chomping at the bit. Yeah.
So please send students to school.
Yeah, that's where they belong. Absolutely. All right, you two, I want to thank you very much. Once again, Happy New Year to you.
Yes, Happy New Year.
You're both looking great and looking forward to talk to you in a couple of weeks. This was pretty fun. I enjoyed it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to turn it over.